Don't I know you from somewhere?
Where you from?
Well, I'm from around Guntown territory.
I have a cousin that lives in Guntown.
Really? Work in the saloon, does he?
He does.
Why, that tow-headed little varmint's the one that tried to cut me.
Well, he shoulda.
You know, we rode hundreds of miles to play poker in this fancy little saloon. With all these people who are all full of themselves. We get here, and it's a cow town. Now, mind you, it's a cow town. And they ain't got no beef. There's no steaks. We're eating stew.
Well, you knew there was a caller at dinner.
I didn't know that. I'll tell you one thing. I know that ain't no beef. I don't know what it is. It might be possum. It might be dog. It ain't cat. I ain't cat.
It could be swine.
No, it ain't no pork. I know what, but I do know what it ain't. It ain't no beef. So we come here to a cow town and can't get no beef. And then we're eating out of skillets. Why are we eating out of skillets in a fancy place like this?
There's a drought going on. They're trying to save a little water.
So I ride hundreds of miles and I get here and they tell me there's no bathroom. So I had to wash my head off in the first trough outside. Now this is supposed to be a nice town, a fancy town. There's no beef, there's no water. I don't know what it is. I really don't know. Then I give the guy $100 as I walk in the door because he says I gotta buy these. Can't play with dollars. He tells me that's $1. That's supposed to be a Morgan dollar right there. Everything's made of clay. This is a $20 gold piece, he tells me. A $20 gold piece, it's a red piece of clay. We come all the way out here and this is what we get. There ain't got any good looking women in this town.
Just finish eating so we can get to the game.
Well, I don't know about you boys. I mean, I'm just a low down cowboy. But I expect to have at least a couple niceties in life. You know, I'm not like you, Mr. Fancy Texas Ranger, where I get to ride in those nice dining cars. And I get to go and eat in the big restaurants. You know, Mr. Gambler here, he used to find things too, but Texas Ranger, you'd expect you to check this out before we got here. Nah, guess you just couldn't do it. Didn't have time to check it out before we got here. Send us into a cow town without cows. That's a fine Texas Ranger friend you got. Well, you know what? We came here to play. I'm going to play with dollars. I ain't playing with you. So we'll just play together and we'll go ahead and play with some dollars. So why don't we just deal them up and get to it, okay?
That wasn't very friendly.
Did you want to listen to him all night? Or did you want to play cards?
That's a good point.
Hell.
Let's finish eating and play some cards. Well, let's play some cards.
Hey, boy. What came up with you? Talk about Rangers again.
Well, I guess let's play some cards. Did I take a little nap here? Did I fall asleep?
It was a long ride.
It's been a long ride.
It was a long ride.
I don't know about you guys, but I've got a little bit of a headache. Is it this altitude we're in? So, let's play. Deal them up, boys.
You know what that means?
Oh, guns on the table. Well, folks, welcome to another draw Western round. And I ain't playing with these, boys. I already told you. I'm going to play with some cash. Well, what we're here to talk about today is the very beginnings, and not only the Western, the very beginnings of motion pictures themselves. We thought, you know, if we're going to do draw Western roundup and we're going to talk about Westerns, we might as well talk about how it first started. And you can't talk about how a Western first started without talking about two things. First one would be
Bronco Billy.
right. Second one would be
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison. Exactly. Now, how do those two? You think how do those two have anything in common? Well, they have a lot in common. What they have in common is this is going to get ready to play. I'm not playing with your chips. I told you that.
Yeah, you did.
I'm going to keep my cash down here. Thomas Edison is credited as being the inventor of the motion picture camera. Now, we all know that, right? Hey, boy, you want to come get this stuff off our table? Hey, you know, I don't want to complain, but
Now, you got an issue with that family somehow. I don't know how, but you do.
here. Thomas Edison was pretty much credited as being the inventor of the motion picture camera. Now, we all know that. What a lot of people don't realize is that he also was directly responsible for founding Hollywood in a roundabout way, and Bronco Billy. And the reason he was is that Thomas Edison had the bright idea that movies would never be nothing more than just Nickelodeon flicker shows. Now, when you think about Nickelodeons, though, you think, okay, well, Nickelodeons is those little things where people go watch those little 2 or 3 minute movies. But what you don't realize is people never seen nothing like that before at that time. We're talking like the turn of the century, 1900, 1901, 1902.
What's the big in those penny arcades?
Penny arcades, or the Nickelodeons. They started out as pennies, and they went to Nickelodeons. And they became so popular that at one time in Chicago at that time was a city of 2 million people. They had 4,000 Nickelodeons in that city alone. And they just put out movie after movie after movie. Edison did, and his company. All the movies were little 1 and 2, 3 minute shorts. You paid a nickel, you got to see 3 shorts. So you put your eyes there, you watched it, you got to see it. But all of them were stuff like Xandor the Strong Man, or Little Egypt. Now, Little Egypt at the time was considered really scandalous. Matter of fact, that was the first time that people, oh, you can't show that. So next time they put it out, they put a little strip across it. Because she was underlaid. That just wasn't popular back then. So Edison thought, okay, that's all movies is ever going to be. So we're going to control this industry. So he got together with a bunch of guys, and they formed the MPPC. And the MPPC was a bunch of guys who held patents on everything, from the gears in the camera to the cameras to the projection. At the time, projection was just coming along. So they said, well, we better get that too. So they went and they got the patents for that. And then they turned around and they said, film stock. The film stock came from 3 places back then: Germany, France, and the U.S. They got Kodak on board. Kodak said, okay, if you don't buy film stock from us, we're going to sue you. Guys who own the projector parts said, if you don't use our parts to repair your projector, we're going to sue you. Edison said, if you use anything except an Edison camera, I'm going to sue you. They filed lawsuits against everybody. Now, the result of that was that if you were going to make a movie, show a movie, anything to do with motion picture business, who did you have to pay?
Mr. Thomas Edison.
Now, do you guys remember going to school? What did you learn about Edison?
Oh, really? In school, all they taught you was he built the light bulb.
And the phone.
But he also
in the motion picture.
he was the Wizard of Menlo Park, remember? And he was that kindly old gentleman with the gray hair. And every school kid was supposed to look. Now, I'm not saying nothing negative about Edison. He is. I'll take some of that whiskey. What are you drinking there, by the way?
Well, this is a little more for the finer tastes.
He's dandified.
Oh, damn.
I'm drinking a little wine today.
Well, see, you can get wine in here this town, but you can't get any steak. It's not a wine town, it's a cow town.
But you can also get a bath if you know where to look.
So anyway, so Edison, he starts just owning everything. If you're going to make a movie anywhere, you got to go through Edison. He actually even had, I was telling you about Kodak. So Kodak said, now if you're going to shoot film stock, you got to use Kodak film. So basically put the Germans and the French out of business. So he said, okay, if you're going to make a movie in this town, you come to us. They even hired thugs to go on to movie sets. And if you weren't using the Edison camera, they'd break your camera. Or they'd have a detective go on your set. If you weren't using the Edison camera, they would confiscate your camera or make you pay a fine. It was that bad. And all they ever wanted to do was those little bitty shorts. So Edwin S. Porter, he decides he wants to do something more than a short. The Bronco Billy Anderson at the time, G.M. Anderson was with Edwin Porter. And he said, you know what we should do? One of the guys says, we should shoot that play we used to do. Remember the play? And he said, yeah. And the play was called
Train robbery.
Great Train Robbery. So they took it to Edison and said, we want to shoot this. And Edison's man said, no, too expensive, too long. Nobody's going to want to sit through a movie that long. And they finally talked him into it. So they shot the Great Train Robbery in New Jersey, of all places. And they shot it, and of course, it just blew up. It was just huge. Audiences flocked to see it. So Edison was wrong. But it didn't stop him. He thought there was no future to that. So what did he do? We're going to keep making the shorts. We're not going to make the big movies. And eventually they started making bigger movies, 12 minutes, 14 minutes long. But the problem with that was, you still had to make them with Edison. So, G.M. Anderson and Edwin S. Porter, seeing it could be done, they decided to start going out on their own. But right now, we need to watch where it all began. It all began with
Great Train Robbery.
So let's watch The Great Train Robbery, done by Edwin S. Porter, here on Draw Western Roundup. Deal 'em up. Now look, got an extra one of those hard rolls. The rolls were even hard. They fed these rolls to the cows, they wouldn't have got cholera.
I'm not riding back with him. He'd take a different train.
You know, I really like the Great Train Robbery. There's actually a couple things there you may or may not have noticed. And the main thing that we're looking at today is Bronco Billy's in it. Or who was going to become Bronco Billy.
I was going to say, he was actually George
G.M. Anderson?
G.M. Anderson
G.M.
in that
Anderson.
movie. And all the way up till 1910, when he got the name Bronco Billy from an article in the Saturday Evening Post.
Yeah, you know, I was wondering about that because everybody always says, where did he get that name from? Was it's from a story out of the Post,
Story
right?
out of the Post, yeah. Story by Peter Kane.
By Peter Kane. Well, and the funny part about him in The Great Train Robbery was when Edmund Porter was making that movie, he asked him, he said, now, can you ride? Can you shoot? And he said, I was born on a horse. So they go down to the stable, and the first thing he does is he goes to get on the horse, and the guy at the stable says, you don't want to get on that side of that horse. And he said, well, why not? Doesn't make any difference. He says, yeah, it does. You'll find out. And so he gets on the horse. And about 100 feet up, it throws him, of course. And so Porter says, wait a minute, I thought you said you was born on a horse. And famously he said, I was, but not on that horse. So Bronco Billy was a guy who didn't know how to ride, didn't know how to shoot, but he became Bronco Billy. But first, before we get to that, we got to talk about how it got there. See, now remember, when we talked about it a while ago, Edison and his group of cronies, they controlled all the movie business.
You know, if you think about it also, the Great Train Robbery, 1903, we look at it as a Western. When you watch it and you see them coming off the train, they're wearing period clothing. It's almost like a crime drama, actually, if you think about it.
Well, do you think 1903 wasn't that far
No.
removed from 1880?
1880.
You know, and so a lot of these people, they probably just told us, like, go home and get your old clothes.
Right. Well, the gunfight at OK Corral had only been, what, 20 years?
20 years?
Little over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe when you think of that way.
They had just captured Geronimo just a few years before that.
Well, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show was still popular and touring the country at that time.
So in 1907, George Porter met Gilbert Anderson. They formed S&A Movies.
S&A Studios, which is S&A, Sport and Anderson. So they called it S&A Studios. Matter of fact, their Indian head logo became world famous almost right away. It was such an iconic logo.
Well, let me ask you something. The Indian head logo, you see it in a lot of the old 50s stuff, television. Is that where that originated?
That's where it originated. They were the first ones to use that side profile of the Indian that I know of. That's what I know of. But they formed that company and they thought, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move to Chicago, get away from Edison, start making our own movies. At this time, LaMille was also starting to shoot movies and starting to kick up a little dust with Edison, Carl LaMille, who later on famously became an icon in the motion picture industry. So they get to Chicago and they shoot a few things here and there. And so Anderson kept thinking, Chicago doesn't look nothing like the old West. It was kind of like shooting Westerns in New Jersey. So then he goes out to Colorado and they shoot a little bit in Colorado, but you know the weather in Colorado can be pretty brutal. So then they moved to San Francisco. Then they moved to San Rafael Valley. San Rafael Valley. They moved out there, and of course this time Sporer had already formed the studio, the S&A studio. He was taking care of Chicago. So here is Anderson out there kind of like just exploring, find out where they're going to settle. So they find a little town in California, Niles, California. And that's where they decide it looks perfect. Now, I think, doesn't the story go that he was riding through on a train or something?
Let's say the Union Pacific had a place right in
Stopped
the
through
area.
there, right, and ran through there.
Because there's a canyon specifically, the Niles Canyon, that he thought, like you said, it's perfect. It looks just the way it should to film a Western.
So they ended up settling there. They thought the weather's good. It's a little town. They let them do whatever they want to do. So here he rides into town. He contacts Ford and says, we think we found a place to shoot our Westerns at. And they shoot a few short Westerns here and there, and he shot it under different names. But after he read that story in the Saturday Evening Post, Anderson thought, that's what's missing. What's missing in movies is a consistent character that people can root for. Somebody they can follow from story to story to story. He truly was the innovator in his time to think of that. So he came up with Bronco Billy. Now the spelling took me a long time to figure out where spelling came from. The spelling is just an archaic way of spelling Bronco.
Really?
That's all. Just an ancient way of spelling Bronco. And so that's what he went with. He went with the story and he used the spelling that the author used. They go to this sleepy little town, Niles. He brings all this big giant movie crew with all these cowboys who at that time were real cowboys, by the way. So he brings them all there, and they just take the town over. I mean, I was reading an interview with one cowboy. He said, "Well, yeah, sure. After we'd shoot all day, we'd get drunk at night, and we'd shoot all the street lights out with our pistols. Can you imagine living in a town like that?" And he said, "But we never hurt nobody." He said, one of us would get drunk, get out of line, and shoot something. He said, we'd usually knock them out and take them home. And so now they got this whole, but Billy Anderson, Bronco Billy, he came in there and he had the run of the town, and they started shooting. And the character took off. So now they're all the way out in California, and that effectively gets them away from Edison. So Bronco Billy and his company, S&A Studios, was the reason that you have Hollywood today. Let's watch our first Bronco Billy movie. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and watch that, folks, and then we'll tell you some facts about that story after we get back. Let's play some cards and watch a movie. Well, I really enjoyed that. Thought that was a good movie. You know, what most people don't seem to realize is that when he created this character, Bronco Billy, it was the first time, like I said, that there had ever been a reoccurring character. So what was the result of it?
Well, you've got Hopalong Cassidy, you've got all the early John Wayne movies.
Oh, yeah, all of them.
Because he was John Steele or John something, but he was always the same character.
But you know, the thing about it was, though, he became the very first movie star. People don't seem to realize, you know, when they see a character and they follow it throughout movies or follow it in a series or whatever, he was the first one to do that. So he became a big star. People, they would go by the Nickelodeon and there would be a poster on the wall that said Bronco Billy in this or Bronco Billy in that. They would take their nickel and go in. Now they saw the value of that. SNA Studios was on top now because Bronco Billy's character really hit it off. He was the very first movie star. Now imagine, you know, we all know what a movie star is today. But here's this guy with this group of cowboys just raising hell out in Niles, California, and all his movies are making big money. So suddenly he is a movie star. He rides into town in a big open coupe. They said you could hear it coming from a half mile away. And he rides in town and they've got chorus girls coming in from everywhere. He's got world champion boxers who come and drink with him at the saloon. Nobody had ever done this. Nobody ever knew what it was like to be a movie star. This was the man who started it. Can you imagine that? Being the first person to be a movie star.
That'd be really cool.
It really was amazing.
It'd be hard to handle all that fame, I would think.
Well, he seemed to have a pretty easy time with it because their bar tabs were amazing. You know? And they would, like I say, they would have just parties. One cowboy said, he said, once a week it'd be like New Year's Eve. He said there would be drinks flowing, and now of course these, you know, it costs money to do this. But back then, when they were at the top of the world like they were in the motion picture business, money flowed. That brings us to an interesting thing about Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm.
Of all people, SNA Studios managed to steal Charlie Chaplin from Max City.
Wait, did you say steal?
Steal it. They stole Charlie Chaplin.
How did they do that?
Well, Max Sennett knew he had the greatest comedian in the world on his set, his sound stages. He knew that. But he also knew people were going to try to steal him away. Now, Chaplin's pictures were packing them in. So they were making big money. So he made sure that the Max Sennett Studios was under lock and key. The only way you could get on that set was if you were working on that set. Bronco Billy put on his Bronco Billy outfit, his whole cowboy getup, and snuck onto Max Sennett Studios set as an extra. Can you imagine? He worked there as an extra. Now this guy's the most famous movie star in Hollywood at the time. Chaplin was the next famous. But he snuck onto the set, went over to Charlie Chaplin and said, we'll give you $1,000 a week to leave Max Sennett and come to work for us. And he did. He shanghaied him right out from under him. And of course, Sennett was just livid. He tried to sue and everything, but Chaplin was Chaplin's own man. So he made pictures for SNA Studios. That made them the top studio in the country. They had Charlie Chaplin, they had Ben Turpin, they had Bronco Billy. They were making money hand over fist in the early days of Hollywood. Remember The Tramp?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Chaplin, The Tramp? That's an iconic movie. That was made in Niles, California at SNA Studios.
Really?
Yes, it sure was. Now, of course, Bronco Billy didn't get along with Chaplin too well because you know what Chaplin liked to do? His own. He didn't want their cameramen, he didn't want this, he didn't want that. He did things his way. Bronco Billy liked to control things. He liked to use cameramen this way, this way. No, Chaplin said, I do it my way. And he did. But those short years that Chaplin was with SNA Studios, they made a fortune. So what are we getting ready to watch next here?
Bronco Billy and
School
Mom.
School Mistress. I know I was School Mistress is an odd title today. I think School Marm every time I think of this. It's Bronco Billy and the School Mistress. Well, let's get ready to watch that. But, you know, we just gotta say, I want you to keep that in mind. That this guy could do anything he wanted to do because he was the very first motion picture star. And because of them, we got Hollywood because, I want to mention also, the SNA Studios started out in a barn in Niles, California. Just an old barn. And very shortly after that, They built a nice, big, state-of-the-art studio. They had dressing room, Klieg lights that were they were fixed lights, and they had movable lights, movable sound stages, backdrops, sets that had never been done in California. So they went from being in a little barn to very shortly having their own studio. The very first real motion picture studio in California.
Wow.
It's an amazing story. Well, let's watch the movie and play some cards. What are you doing? Cash that I keep giving you?
Can you believe that story?
Well, that was definitely different.
All right, let me get this straight. A group of guys decide that they're going to scare a schoolmarm who's packing a pistol. They think that's a smart idea.
Yeah, Bronco Billy got his stories from everywhere. Apparently, he got that story from some article he read. But yeah, I mean, the whole point of the story is to try to get the schoolmarm to draw and shoot somebody.
And then they were surprised when he got shot, even though it wasn't
Right,
her that shot him. It was his friend.
But the story that story wouldn't fly too well today, I don't think.
No.
But the ironic part is that the movies they were making were so well received by the public, they just loved them. But by the time it got to be 1915 or so, those movies had started kind of losing their appeal. Charlie Chaplin was now on the scene, and he was making higher quality comedies. He was still working for us. But one day he shows up at S&A Studios, and he goes through and cherry picks it. He picks the people he likes working with and just takes them on. The one in Niles, California, he takes the people he likes working with to Los Angeles.
Wait, why's he doing that?
Because he decided to go out on his own. He left S&A Studios and he headed to LA. But he took the people he liked to work with there. Now, George Spohr back in Chicago hears about this. Wait, we lost Chaplin, but he also took our best crew with him? So that started to look like there might be a little chink in the armor out in Niles, California.
Well, no, Anderson wasn't really making many movies that way, was it?
It started slowing down, didn't it?
Right. As high on top they were in 1911, 1916, they had almost hit rock bottom at Niles.
I think, I remember reading stories, they said that they weren't making as many movies as they used to. And I think they were more interested in...
Yeah, he was doing a lot more partying and a lot more enjoying his fame and his money than actually making movies.
So I think, they said that where they used to shoot like 3 to 5 pictures a week, they would shoot maybe 1 picture a week now. And they said sometimes they would show up on set and Bronco Billy just wouldn't show up. And so, Spohr, though, out in Chicago is still getting all these bills. They're still having the big parties. The chorus girls are still coming in. But there's not much movies coming out of Niles anymore. So wasn't it 1916? The Niles Studio.
They showed up for work one day and there was a sign on the door, closed till further notice.
And they all stuck around thinking, these were good old boy cowboys. They all stuck around thinking, well, it'll open back up. So some of them stayed around there for weeks and months, and it never did. The Niles Studio officially closed.
So when did Bronco Billy sell out, basically, or sell his stock?
I think he stayed with the company a couple more years after that. It was like 1920.
1920, I think, when he finally officially retired.
Okay.
But I mean, and the story about the actual studio in Niles is kind of sad, because not only did they walk away from it when Spohr pulled the plug, they just left it. They left everything. They left film in their film vault. They left all the sets, the costumes. They left everything there.
Well, didn't the facts show that he did over 300 movies?
Yeah, there's something like over 300 movies that Bronco Billy did.
But there's only a dozen or so left at the most?
A dozen. I think there's about a dozen that survived. One of the stories I read that really kind of hits home with you, they said that after a while, the studio there in Niles, kids started breaking the windows, and they started going in and stuff like that. And they would go into the film vault and get those big reels of nitrate film, and they would light them on fire and roll them down the city street. So a lot of those films are gone forever. I think it just left such a bad taste in Spohr's mouth that he said, just leave it out there. But they said also, for years and years and years, you'd go to the studio, and there still was Bronco Billy's horse's footprints in the concrete there for years afterwards. And the studio finally was demolished. Matter of fact, guys, I got something here. You want to see what a loss that was? This right here I've got. Look at this. This is 1910, 1911, 1912, 1913, 1914. Those are all Bronco Billy pictures. And all of them except maybe just a dozen, lost forever.
Look how fast they came out though.
They did. I mean, it's just amazing.
April 30th, May 7th, May 14th, May 28th, June 4th, June 11th. It's just every few days they're putting a new one out.
You know, and so what became
That
of
just shows
Bronco
how-
Billy in his later years?
How they got on top so quickly.
Yeah,
You know,
yep. They gave product.
They produce a great product very quickly.
You know, and losing Chaplin really hurt them a lot. If I remember correctly, they ended up selling S&A Studios. And I remember S&A was one of the biggest studios in the entire world at one time, that quickly, like you said, so fast. But by 1920, I think they sold out to Vitagraph?
Right.
They sold out to Vitagraph. And then Vitagraph eventually sold out to Warner Brothers. So if you wonder whatever happened to S&A Studios, they eventually became Warner Brothers. In Chicago, the S&A building's still there.
There's Park as well, named after Bronco Billy.
Yep, there sure is. Now, Bronco Billy, what happened to Bronco Billy after the S&A days?
Well, he started producing plays. He started his own production company. He was producing plays, and he did that until about 1950.
Well, one of the things about his production company that he also did was Rural Party. He got the first movie made together, which was I think called Lucky Dog.
And matter of fact, I think he was instrumental in getting Stan Laurel's career started before Laurel.
Okay.
I think he was one of the very first people that got Stan Laurel going, and he produced that. But I didn't know he actually got the two of them together too.
Yeah, their first movie. He produced it.
I mean, the guy had an incredible career. But he finally retired. I think he retired several times, didn't he?
He retired. Well, yeah, he retired in 1920. Came back out of retirement to produce, and then retired again. And he came back out for one last movie that he did in 1965.
Isn't that amazing? 1965. What movie was that? Remember?
Bounty.
That was The Bounty Killer.
The Bounty Killer.
It was his only talking movie.
Think about that, guys. The guy did 300 movies, was in the entire span of Hollywood from the beginning to 1965, and he did one line, one talking movie. Isn't that amazing?
And his only Academy Award was that honorary Academy Award that they gave.
He has a Hollywood Walk of Fame star, and in 1958 he was honored by the Academy as one of the pioneers of Hollywood. You know, so it's an amazing story, an amazing man. You know, and especially to look at the guy, you wouldn't think this isn't Tyrone Mountain. You know, this guy was not exactly a handsome, devil-may-care, dashing guy. There's a couple of his movies we were talking about where he plays so big, which was the style of the day. And it's amazing to think this guy became so famous. He wasn't an actor. He didn't want to be an actor. But he knew that he could do it, and he could rely on himself. And he also was the one who thought of, let's make a character.
Speaking of character, he sued Paramount in 43 or 48. He sued Paramount Pictures because they put a movie out with a character called Bronco Billy. And that character was a has-been Western star.
Oh, they had to know he was going to come out.
He sued him. He asked for, I think, $900,000, but they never disclosed
How much he actually got, how they settled it.
Oh, wow. Well, it has been an absolute amazing career, and we really appreciate you all joining us for this show. Did you enjoy the movies, guys?
They were good. I enjoyed it.
How about you? Did you enjoy them? And, I'm always interested in seeing the early days of Hollywood and seeing where all this came from. And it's always good to get together with you guys and drink a couple of whiskey, although the food here is just awful.
Are you going to start that again?
That's right, the boy's got a knife, ain't he?
Yeah.
His cousin almost cut me once. So, guys, here's to Bronco Billy Anderson and the beginnings of Hollywood.
Bronco Billy.
Bronco Billy.
Thank you guys for joining us here on Draw Western Roundup. Have a safe ride home, and we hope to see you again soon. Let's play some cards.
All right. Deal 'em. It's time to win.
I've got to do something on this trip besides get dysentery and walk around dirty all the time. Did you guys see the women here? Did I mention that?
Do you need those chips back?
Most of these women need a shave. There's no water to shave with.